Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. My guest today is one of my best friends in the world. His name's Aaron Bobo. He's currently living in Panama and about to make a move to the Netherlands, one of many moves that he's made to a foreign country. We've known each other for 15, 20 years, and both just have a passion for living in other countries, learning other languages, exploring other cultures. And he has managed to do that in a way that's a little bit different than many of the people that I bring on the show. He's been more of a corporate ladder climber and elevated himself through one of the biggest companies in the world, in the shipping world, to create this life for himself where he's constantly moving to other countries and immersing himself and managing people from multiple different backgrounds, and just really lives a truly international life. So we had a fantastic time catching up in this happy hour edition of About Abroad. If you're unfamiliar with happy hours, it is a segment within the greater About Abroad system, a greater About Abroad podcast, where we just talk about just kind of fun catching up with friends. I talk to other expats who I've met along the way in my life who are living in other places, and we have a beverage together. Today, my friend Aaron and I have a beer together. Maybe other days it's a coffee or a glass of wine or whatever, but it's a very casual chat just between two friends, and we touch on a lot of the same stuff we always do on this show, but in this format, it's just a little bit more laid back, maybe not as high a quality audio, but just a lot of fun and a lot of the things that we always want to cover in this show. So we'll talk in this one about living in multiple different countries and multiple continents, some of the fears that he's having around moving to another country at this point, even as a seasoned veteran of moving abroad, and what he really loves about living in Panama, where he's been living the last 5 years, and what he's excited about moving to Europe again. So it's just a really fun conversation, great for me catching up with a friend, and I think a lot of useful information for you listening. So I hope you enjoy. Grab a drink, sit down with us, have a good time listening to Aaron Bobo and I catch up and talk about his life abroad. Please help me in welcoming him to About Abroad Happy Hours. Aaron Bobo in the house, man. So good to see you. How are you, my friend?
Pretty good. A little stressed, but pretty good. Yes, yes.
Well, I'd like to think that the frosty beverage in your hand there might help take a little bit of the edge off. Cheers. Good to
Absolutely,
see you.
absolutely. You too, buddy. It's been a long time. A long
It has
time.
been. It has been. It is a stressful time. I mean, it's an exciting time, but it's a stressful one. I know the listeners here that are checking in on the show have heard the intro and know that big life change is coming your way right now. But maybe you
Yes.
can expand upon what's lying ahead for you, and kind of where you are now and where you're heading.
Yes. No. No. Yes. No. That's, things just happened so fast, recently. But yeah. So I'm going to be heading over to the Netherlands from here in Panama in Central America. So exchanging the tropics for the flatlands of Europe. But I'm going specifically to Rotterdam. So I'll be moving roughly around in August or September. But this is the big change. Me and my dog Henry. That's the I think that's the big stress, right? Because he that's my child in my view. So I have to figure out how to make this big change. That's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest the moving of the dog around the world is the one time when a dog is much more difficult than a kid, I think. So
Exactly, exactly.
it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world, but it's doable. You've accomplished quite a bit in your life. I feel like you'll figure it out.
Let's see. But that's the one that has me the most stressed out, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So this is cool. So I mean, I know a little bit of the backstory, but I mean, you're moving. You've gotten a promotion. You're moving from Panama to the Netherlands. You've accepted this role. How long have you been in Panama now?
Yeah, so I moved to Panama in November 2015. So roughly about 5.5 years,
Yeah.
which is quite a long time. I mean, the original plan was in my head was 2 to 3 years or so, and then that's kind of been my normal like limitation. I think is 2 years before I move somewhere else. But then something happened once I hit that 3 year mark. I did change jobs in the middle of my time here in Panama and extended it a bit further. But then I started to really fall in love with the place. Once I think that might be the what's the word I'm looking for, the time limit. I feel like once I hit 2.5 to 3 years, I just completely felt like home.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, California or North Carolina, it's it's home
Yeah.
right now.
Do you see yourself returning possibly, or like could it be a home,
So
or maybe not?
fair question. I mean, that originally was not on the table. And I was like, I'll do it several years, then I won't come back. I think that my long term goal is to eventually return to the U.S. right and settle down. That being said, when you're in Panama, you realize how close it is to the U.S. I mean, I can get to Miami in what I think the flight's roughly 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's faster to get to Florida than it is to get to Florida from California, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like I feel like I'm in another state, mentally. So it's not off the table. I would definitely say it's not off the table.
It maybe seems like, from our previous conversations, now that it's kind of being taken away from you in a way, like you've made the decision. It's not like you're being forced to go. It's a great
Mhm.
opportunity and you're excited about it. But now that it's sort of being taken off the table for you, you're like, it's like the forbidden fruit, right? You're like, well,
Exactly.
actually, I really like it here. Like I was
Yes.
telling myself for years, I'm going to get out of this place. Like I'm just here for a couple years and I'm going off to the next place. But you kind of get settled in and then you're like, ooh, what do
Exactly.
I do?
And the thing is, that I know you love mountains, right?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly we went to university together, right, in the mountains. So I love mountains. I can see them here, and I tell myself I could never fully live in a 100% tropical place where it's hot all the time. And now that I've been living here, I mean, it's hot all the time and humid. I'm so used to it, and I'm actually as excited. I'm a four seasons type of guy. But now that I'm thinking about it, when I move to the Netherlands, it's gonna kind of suck when I have to go downstairs, taking my dog out, and put on my jacket and put on boots. When it's the middle of winter. So
Yeah.
there's little things like that. I'm just starting to realize like how easy it is to pop outside with flip flops, and there's no other problem.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I felt the same way when I came to Valencia. As you said, like I love the mountains, but I was like now if I think about not living where it's like warm and sunny 300 days a year, I'm kind of like I'm not so sure about that. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
I
right.
really kind of dig this warm weather and sunshine all the time. Like, yeah, it gets hot, but like it doesn't like when it rains here, it cracks me up. Like people, it's like when it snows in the South in the U.S. You know how like they shut down the school
uh,
because there's like a centimeter of snow and people can't
exactly.
drive, and it's sort of like that here when it rains. It's just like I've like texted friends and been like, hey, do you want to go grab lunch? They're like, dude, it's raining. Like, I'm not leaving the house today. Are you kidding
It's not
me?
safe. It's not safe.
Yeah,
It's not safe,
it's
man.
it's cloudy outside. It's a little nublado out there, man. I'm not going outside. You nuts? And I'm like, oh yeah, you really don't do anything. So yeah, I like wonder like, could I go back to the mountains or I don't know.
Wait, how's the winter there in Valencia though?
It is. It's not bad. It's kind of blah, to be honest, because it's not cold. It's like mild for sure. It's like,
Mm,
you don't need like a heavy jacket or anything, just a light kind of jacket. But it does it's not like cold enough to actually like do anything. Like, so like you
okay.
have to like the mountains are far enough away where it's like it's a trip to go take advantage of cold weather activities like skiing or something like that. So but it's not, I mean, it's very mild.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
needless to say, that yeah, weather will be a little bit of a change going to going to the Netherlands. I'm sure that's been a factor on your mind, but what are you looking forward to about the Netherlands? Like you'll be in Rotterdam. Is Rotterdam a place that's been on your radar and or
So that's actually funny to say that. I've never. I feel like actually most of the places I've moved to, I never, while living abroad, I had never been before. So I did live in, I lived in New Zealand for almost 2 years. So when I accepted the job down there, I had never been. So when I landed, that was the first time. So I've been to Amsterdam in the Netherlands previously when I studied abroad in Spain. I've been there, a couple of times. I never made it down to Rotterdam. So I think it looks like a really pretty place. You know, the photos that I see, the videos I've been watching, all these different walking tours on YouTube, where you have to be careful though, because I went down a YouTube dark hole where I realized that I was just sitting there watching someone walk around Rotterdam for about 40 minutes. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, they're just literally walking around the city. And I went down this dark hole and was like, okay, get a life. It's like a Wednesday night. This is what you're doing now. So, but I mean, it has the thing about Rotterdam that is interesting is that it has all these different skyscrapers, which is not very typical in Europe. There's skyscrapers everywhere. It's known for its architecture. I mean, very cool looking, strange looking buildings in some cases, and
It's
then
very
also
modern. It's like it's
super
like
modern.
because it got like the shit bombed out of it during World War II, I
Exactly.
think, right?
Exactly. The whole city was basically the most of the city was destroyed. At least the city center for sure. And that's why it looks so modern, at this point. And it is on the water. That's a nice thing too, because although I'm a mountains guy, I do like here in Panama where I can see the water every day. I'm driving over it on the highway, and there, since Rotterdam is also basically the biggest port in Europe, it has like a lot of just water all around it. So I'm used to seeing that. So
Yeah.
if I can have mountains, I'll take that. If I can have water every day that I can see from the office, then that makes me very happy.
Yeah. And the sweet thing, as you know, about Europe is like, I mean, you're a short train ride or a quick flight
So
to
true.
some of the most beautiful mountains in the world. I mean, you could be in the Alps in an hour on a flight probably. So
Well, you know that I like Paris, right?
yeah.
I'm super excited to just be able to hop on the train after work on a Friday. I've creepily already looked and like just randomly I'll look up schedules like what's the schedule going from
Dude,
Rotterdam Central
that's
Station
not
down
creepy.
to Paris.
That's how I pass like
Just
half my free hours just looking at potential trips. So, if that's creepy, I'm a creepy guy.
I do this nonstop, and so I'm definitely looking forward to that, and then also I'll be able to just drive over to. I think this for me is crazy, and actually it's actually funny that we're talking about this because one time when I was in Copenhagen, I was talking to two guys that I worked with from Europe, and there was a big discussion about Americans from the U.S. not traveling and not seeing different cultures, et cetera, and so we kind of got into a bit of a debate on this, and one of the guys was from Belgium, and I told him how how I actually was jealous of him, as a child. I was like, you can actually drive from your house. You could go have lunch in France, if you want, and then you could go have lunch or dinner in the Netherlands, and then be back home in Belgium all in one day. I was like, that's insane. And I said that even your own country, you're speaking Flemish at home, but you go to another part down in Brussels and you're speaking French. So I said, for me, when I was living in Charlotte, I drive the same distance and I'm in Gastonia or Greensboro or, like, so I was like, actually, I hope that you guys realize how lucky you have it to take a train from London and be in Paris 2.5 later, and but I am looking forward to that. But that's amazing that Europe offers that.
Yeah. I mean, this is like what I feel like our friendship was built on that, what you just said.
Oh, so
Like
true.
we're total nerds for this kind of stuff, right? Like I'm like, that's what I like to geek out on too. I'm like, man, like that is so cool. You can drive to another country. You hear a different accent. Like, how do you guys talk in the North versus the South? Like, I just love all this stuff, and the food's
It's so
different and the
crazy.
culture's different. It's what really drew me to Europe too. And I think it just does not ever get old. Like, you can like we're planning on doing a trip this summer through the Alps, through France and Switzerland, and like we're like, we need to study some French. Like, we got to learn some French because we passed into we've been in France some, and we're always like, yeah, like you really, like, you don't really get by very well with English a lot of times, and maybe at best like somebody's going to speak a little bit of Spanish, so we're like being forced to learn a little bit of French. And I'm like, that's amazing. I love that I'm being forced to do that, and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
right. It's just a couple hours up the road, so
No, wait a
I don't know.
second. Hold on a second. So you guys can't save this Alps trip until I'm there? You have to take it this summer? That sounds amazing. You guys take some amazing trips.
Do you want to sleep in a 4 foot by 4 foot camper van space with us and Coda? I don't. Yeah, we're big guys, man. I don't know if that's gonna work very well.
That's fair.
No, my plan is get this trip over with before you get here, and then we have free time to hang.
Perfect, perfect. We can stay in a hotel. That works out.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
No, we're gonna have plenty of time. As we were talking about this off air. I mean, another one of the awesome benefits of Europe is, like, I looked at speaking of being creepy and looking at flights, like I looked at flights to Rotterdam, and You can find them for $15 for 25, $50 is pretty typical. Like maybe at the most 100 round trip and direct, from Valencia to Rotterdam, and what, an hour, 2 hours or something like that. So, yeah, I
That's
mean, it's
ridiculous.
going to be epic to be so close, and as much. And what I think is so cool is like, I mean, and we should touch on this for people listening, like you've lived all over the world with your job and in a lot of
Yeah.
different places, and we have always kind of missed each other in the different places that we've been living. Like if
Hmm.
I was living in Ecuador while you were living in Panama, like that would have been great, but like
I
we
totally
we
forgot
were
about that.
we missed,
Yes,
yeah, we missed each other. So we're now going to both be in Europe
man.
at the same time, in two cities that have many. I think there's like 20 something direct flights between the two cities every day. There's a ton of Dutch in Valencia, by the way,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because of that. So anyway, I just it's like you've lived all over, and we should talk a little bit about some of the other places you've lived. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and actually, so on that point, because I was I was talking to my dad about this, and I was saying, "Geez, like Dad, this is my okay." Let's see, I've and I realized how lucky I am, right, and how fast time goes, right. And so I was in Spain in college, in Copenhagen for what was that, 5 months or so on a short term assignment with my company. In New Zealand for basically 2 years, and then Panama for this 5.5, and now Netherlands. This is going to be my fifth, country. And I just think about, I was like, okay, of course in Spain I don't have to set up a bank account because I was a college student, right? And I use my U.S. one, and but and I'm thinking about how many times I had to go through this process of setting up a bank account, and just getting the card, explaining why, just the whole thing. Um, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's
You feel
crazy,
like you're a
actually.
pro at it yet? I mean, it's been 5 years since you've done it.
Yeah.
Things have changed in different country. I mean, I don't know, but do you feel like are you at a point where you feel like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, like this will be easy, or is it still like kind of stressful?
No, actually, and I think the kind of Panama, taught me that, honestly, it's just I don't even think about it, and that's actually funny that you say that because now I'm just so accustomed to it, and adjusting to how things work in every country, and I'm not. That's like the least of my concerns with the move. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll land. I'll get that set up. I'll just go in there. I'll talk to them, and maybe something's going to go wrong, and they're probably going to have to tell me that I need to go to three other government things to sign up that I didn't know, but everyone else knows in the Netherlands that you're supposed to do that. And I'll have to probably take me 5 days until I finally get all the paperwork done. But you kind of roll with the punches and be patient. I just learned how to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something I've noticed talking to people on this show, like Instagram makes living abroad super super glamorous, and
oh,
we've
so
we've
true.
both chosen this life for a reason. We enjoy it. It is a net positive. It is a lot of fun, and but you don't see the like all the like you don't see the way the sausage is made, sort of, and it's not pretty sometimes. Like all the visa appointments and like little things, setting up a bank account. Just like go through the list of like, okay, I got to get a rental. I got to get a lease on a place. I got to get health insurance. I got to get a car. I got to get car insurance. I got to get a cell phone. Contracts are all in another language. Like I can't read any of this. What does this even mean? What am I signing up for? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then there's all the bureaucracy, the government stuff, the visas, and that those websites are notoriously out of date. And um,
So true, so
yeah,
true.
it's not really fun. Like all that stuff like really can drag the experience down. But in the end, it's an awesome thing. And I know, like I feel like you've done it so much now. You're like, yeah, I'll push
Uh,
through.
I mean, I still have my days though, right? Don't you? I mean, I don't know if you have that one day where you're trying to get so much accomplished, and then you
Yeah,
just say like, I can't today, and
yeah.
you just go home. You're like, you win whatever country you're in. I'm like, you win this round today, all right? Like,
You win, New Zealand.
I'm coming back. I'm not coming back tomorrow to try. I'll try again in 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, my advice to people, like people ask me like, "Oh, do you do it?" I'm hire somebody. Like there are pros out there that
So
can
true.
just grease the wheels on all this stuff. Like it's not a time to be, thrifty. Like spend a couple $100 if you've got it. I know that could sound a little bit privileged, but like it's
Mhm,
a time to invest. We spent months on our most recent visa renewal and
mhm.
literally got 80% of the way there, And in the end, to get the last 20%, we had to hire a firm to help us because it was just getting like it's just too much. And we just were like, what are we doing? And
Mm-hmm.
like almost, we ended up paying like, almost as much as we would have paid had we just had them do the whole process for us. So it's just not worth it normally. Like do a quick Google search, find a few pros and let them grease the wheels for you.
Pay for the convenience.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, it saves your headache, and because sometimes you'll end up paying more anyways once you're so frustrated, and you go to a bar to have a couple of drinks to kind of relax yourself. You're like, man, wait, why not just pay the $30, to someone to help take care of this?
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
spent 50 on a bottle of wine here.
Yeah. So true. When you think about some of these places that you've lived previously, like, I mean, okay, so I'll frame the question differently actually. So you moved to Panama. You weren't expecting Panama to be your forever. You say that's kind of like on the table, like it's become home and you could potentially see yourself coming back there. So at least not off the table. I don't know this for sure, so it's kind of a two-part question, but I assume the Netherlands isn't like where you see yourself living the rest of your life. Obviously things could change. So my point is like you kind of see you're moving from place to place, you're trying out different places. Is there anywhere where that kind of calls to you as like, but if I could just write my perfect script, like this is where I would live. Do you have that place that calls to
Mm.
you?
That's a really, really good question. Because I feel like, the reason that's a difficult question and a good one is because I feel like every place has something you give and take, right? I feel like there's no perfect utopia, at least in how my brain works, right? Maybe some people could live on a tropical perfect island for the rest of their life. For me, my brain runs too fast, and I would get bored after 3 days. I'd be like, "This isn't going to work for me, right?"
Yeah.
As much as I can have a luxurious home there, and a butler and everything. I'm like, I'm over this. Like, I'm over this. I need some difficulties and some challenges in my life. So I think the struggle for me is that because my goal is to settle down in the US at some point,
Yeah.
that the further away I go, that makes it harder for me to say would I be able to live there. So, for example, living in New Zealand New Zealand. If you have never been there, that is just amazing, right?
It's
It's
paradise, right?
so
Like it's just like
it's
the happiest place in the world.
total paradise, right? And the fact when I actually received the offer for that job, with the company I work at, right? So I work in maritime and international trade, right, and shipping, container
Yep.
shipping, and so when they offered that role to me, one, I didn't think I was going to get it. So it took me 3 days to accept the offer. And I remember when I actually received the phone call,
Where were
I
you
walked
living
back to
at the time?
at that time I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
I was in Charlotte, and I got the phone call, and then I said, okay, wow. I was like, great. He said, take some time, to think about it. Let us know. And then I went back to my desk, and on my desk it was kind of a giant mouse pad that had a globe of a map of the world. And I just looked at where I was on the map right now at the moment, and I looked at where New Zealand was at the very, very bottom, and I felt like I almost cried, like, because it's one thing where it's all thinking about it and it's a possibility. It's different when the moment actually comes and they say, okay, this is happening. You're able to come. Then you really start to think like, do I really want this?
Yeah.
Um,
It's totally
so
normal.
yeah, completely just not stressing out. But wait, hold on. Maybe it's the beer. I'm trying to think. I had a point to this story. What was, what was
That
the
makes the
question
show
again?
that's what makes the happy hour editions
I'm like,
especially fun.
wait.
We're talking about where you may want to settle
Oh yeah. Okay.
someday or something,
Okay.
like if that place exists and how perfect New Zealand is on like a lot of levels,
Yes.
but
So
I
okay,
assume
if
there's a
New
but.
Zealand.
We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This season is brought to you by my good friends over at Insured Nomads. They're the absolute best in the business when it comes to providing health, travel, and medical insurance for nomads, expats, and really just all forms of world travelers. I know insurance is often something that's overlooked when we're fantasizing about traveling the world, but it's absolutely necessity that we address this because often the policy you have in your home country isn't going to cover you while you're abroad. And it's also a requirement, as a lot of people may not realize, to actually buy private travel or expat insurance, as it's called sometimes, to obtain a visa or even enter certain countries. So, fortunately, there are companies like Insured Nomads to help us with this. Not only do they have excellent coverage and great prices, but they're also providing a first-class experience with additional perks and best-in-class technology via their app. It's an amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, this is a company that was built by world travelers for world travelers, so they know what it's like to find yourself in a difficult medical situation abroad, and they want to keep you from having that same bad experience. So the next time you're planning a trip abroad, whether it's for a week or a lifetime, check out Insured Nomads via the link in the show notes. Okay, now back to the episode.
Well, okay, if New Zealand was located where Hawaii was, I think I would have just even stayed longer than I did. I because of
Let's see what
the
we can do, man.
can we move it, right?
Yeah,
We
we
can
could
move it,
probably
right?
slide that around.
Okay, I think so, right? They say that it does move like what, half an inch every year or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, see some immortality. Okay, I need to
Yeah.
stop drinking. No, but so I'm no, but really, I mean, because it just was so untouched, the people were very, very nice. I mean, it had the mountains, it had the water. You had the. It was a little bit isolated, but you could have the city. I, I thought it was just amazing. So I would say that would be the place, but I can't say that. No, it's too far. It's
Yeah.
too far from the end of the world. If my entire family moved there, that would definitely be the place.
Yeah.
If my parents said that we're going to go, my brother said we're going to go, bringing the kids, yes, I would definitely go.
So just the vibe of New Zealand, everything that New Zealand has, it's just that one giant X is the location. It's that one thing that just
Yes,
kind of like erases it as
yep,
the forever
that
place. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So that
What
would
did you
be.
love about it so much though? Like what made New Zealand just so epic?
hmm,
Because
it was just a natural.
I'm asking because I bet there's a lot of people, the world's a big place and people have their bucket list and whatever, and New Zealand's not off the radar. It may not be like super high on somebody's bucket list either. And I think it should be because it's like I've talked to people who've been in New Zealand, you primarily. It's one of my biggest regrets. I think I've told you this before, that I didn't come visit you while you were living there. And I just kept thinking, "Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that." And like now I kick myself for forever for that. So
You should,
but
you should continue
yeah,
to kick yourself. You
yeah,
should,
I
you should.
do. I take
I'm just
beatings for this.
joking.
But it's, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's got black sand beaches, white sand beaches, volcanoes, mountains, cities,
I
villages,
mean,
like nice people, the social system's good. Like it's got everything, right?
yeah, I mean, I think about maybe my day to day and kind of more so how my weeks would go, right? Like you said, the beach aspect. I mean, I did live in Central Auckland. Our office for Maersk was located in downtown Central Auckland. So it had the high rises. It was very diverse, right? As well. We had a lot of people that actually were there from England. A lot of people from Fiji, from India, from Asia. It was interesting, vibe. But you could. Uh, like for example, in Panama, you can't exactly just go to the beach right in front of the city. Yes, you can look at the ocean, but it's a bit dirty because the water, the sewage kind of leaks out into it right now. They have a 10-year plan apparently to make it into kind of a Rio de Janeiro type of beach thing, but that 10-year plan has kind of been on the say 10 years since I've been here. Is 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. I
Manana,
haven't seen any
manana, manana.
construction. Exactly. So, but going like you said to New Zealand, I mean, I could. Well, my parents came to visit, for example, right? And I remember one day I think it was the first day I landed. We just crossed the bridge in Auckland, went to this dormant volcano just to overlook at the city, had mussels for lunch, then drove out to the west coast. There's a couple of beaches out there, and that was roughly about 35 minutes, drive. And they're basically these volcanic sand beaches. It's just black sand, and they're flat, and it's just these random cliffs coming out of nowhere. It's amazing. We hiked to a waterfall, and then came back to my place in downtown Auckland. And you're sitting there just like, okay, wait. On their first day, because they flew in from San Francisco, their first day they landed at like 6 in the morning. Went to my place. We went to a dormant volcano, went to volcanic beaches, and hiked to a waterfall, and then just came home like it was no big deal. Like that's not normal, and
No, that's not
that's not
all in a
normal.
day's work in most places.
Yes. So I would say that, but then also because purely the natural beauty, I would say that in all of my travels, there was one moment I never had experience before. And when I was in the South Island of New Zealand, outside of Queenstown. So most people know this because where Lord of the Rings was filmed. Primarily in the South Island, where you have all of these the water, these massive lakes, there's glaciers. But there was one moment I was with a friend of mine named Craig, and I just looked out at these mountains, and the sky was like crystal clear blue, and it actually looked like it was a postcard in real life. Like I feel like that I could have like thrown something into the sky and it would have broke, like because it was a fake like green screen or something that was there. And I've never felt that way in any other landscape I've seen in my entire life. And I've been to the Alps and places I've never seen that type of beauty. Um, and so for that reason, it's so untouched. I'll also tell you one more other thing as well. There's nothing that can kill you in New Zealand. So
Unlike its neighbor
yeah,
Australia, right across the little
yeah,
thing where there's like, like Komodo dragons and spiders the size of your freaking head. Like
yeah.
New Zealand doesn't have these like deadly
No,
predators, does it?
no bears. If a snake actually comes in from a logistics perspective on a vessel, they kill it instantly. It even took roughly, I think, after my container arrived with my personal belongings, it took almost a month for me to get it because of just the inspections, because they want to keep the whole ecosystem there balanced. So
Hmm.
no snakes. I don't know if any possible. No bears. So you can hike and you can sleep out in the forest and not worry about anything creeping in and biting your legs off. So for me, that was great
This
in
is
that
so
respect.
I have a Venezuelan friend here, and we joke about this a lot. Like people, because in Europe, this is like also like snakes aren't like a thing, but like we're like, I mean, not that they completely don't exist, but like where we're from, like we're both from. I know you're from California, but you grew up in the Carolinas some, and so you're
Hmm.
aware of like, we have like water moccasins and copperhead snakes
Yes,
and shit.
yes,
Like these are like in our backyard. Like you grow up being like watch out for copperheads, and like you've seen them, you've killed them, and so it's just like a funny thing. Like I was playing, like for instance, like we were playing golf here, and like you hit a ball into the brush, and like my thought is like, I'm not going to get that ball because I could get eaten by a alligator or a crocodile
exactly,
a water python or something, and, and and they're like, yeah, no big deal. They're digging through the brush. I'm like, okay, yeah, change of mindset. It's totally different.
exactly, exactly. But I will say that just to make it real, there is one spider that's poisonous called the white-tailed spider. I think it's called the white-tailed spider. And who got bitten by it? Me.
You
So I
did?
got bitten. Yep, I got bitten. I was hiking with some friends on this. Right across from the city, you'll see an island called, I think it's called Rangitoto, and it's a dormant volcano, black rocks everywhere. And came back from that, and I had a little swelling on my left ankle, and I saw like little holes. And the next day, it was massive, massive, and after that, it was terrible. So I had to go, and they had to basically. It was a whole thing.
It was a
It was a,
thing.
it was a whole thing, and I still have a scar to this day on my ankle. So that's my luck, is that
You
the
you would
one
you
thing that
would
hurts
find the
you, I
one
get that.
poisonous spider
Yes.
in the whole of New Zealand.
Yep. Yeah. So just be aware of the white-tailed spider.
Well, it sounds like an epic place to live. I'm glad you had that experience. Like I said, I always regret that I didn't come to visit you during that time, but it's it'll be there. We'll have to make a trip back. Where else? You lived in Copenhagen. Copenhagen wasn't your favorite though, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, our company headquarters is in Copenhagen. I mean, Copenhagen's a gorgeous city, right? It's very pretty, right?
Yeah.
The people are quite nice. I think one of the things was for me, it was. I mean, luckily, I think for my company, there's a lot of expats, right? Expatriates that are there, right? Different countries. I think it was just a little hard to kind of try to assimilate into the Danish culture, more so from a perspective of it's a smaller country, so a lot of the people who are there, they've maybe been friends, especially in Copenhagen, right? Maybe they lived outside the city and then they moved into the city and they've known each other since they were 5 years old. And they're not really like, meh. It's hard to kind of break into that circle. So I think for me that was more difficult because when I've traveled, I've really tried to meet someone more local and kind of get into a circle of friends where maybe I'm the only American, right? And it's not just hanging out with people from work all the time. I think because then you sometimes lose the ability to really enjoy the culture. You leave and you say, "Wow, I didn't really get to truly understand how people from Denmark actually, live." Find out those secret cool places and cool restaurants that you don't know about, right? That aren't on TripAdvisor. So yeah, it wasn't my favorite place to live, to be honest, but it is still a very very gorgeous place to visit, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, the expat community thing is always a weird thing. Do you hang with just your crew of expats, or do you? Because
Hmm.
that can be a very cool international experience. I mean, you could. I imagine I've hung out with you and some of your Maersk friends before, and
Hmm.
it's like a little petri dish of the world. Like you're talking to like people from Brazil and India and and Singapore on in the same little conversation, and you're like, wow, like
Yeah.
you can get a lot from that. But it is also true that like when you put a bunch of those people in a third party country, like they kind of tend to like cling together, and then you never get to experience the real culture of the place that you're in. So there's always
Hmm.
that there's
Hmm.
kind of a trade-off. I've experienced this like multiple times, and I've always kind of like am unsure how to balance that because both are interesting, and you just have to find the right balance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Very fair point. Very fair point.
Yeah, but I think Rotterdam's going to be very cool for you in a lot of ways because you've had all these different experiences living in other places. You know that now, like when you
Hmm.
arrived to Copenhagen, like maybe you didn't have that experience to know to kind of figure that out. I can say like for us arriving to Spain, we knew from living in other places, like we have to make sure that we don't get in the fall into the trap of like
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
doing the expat thing. That was
Yeah.
never really our interest anyway, but it does kind of happen naturally sometimes. It's like the path of least resistance. So maybe Rotterdam's gonna be like a whole like you're like going into it as a seasoned vet.
But on that point, though, like you said, I mean, I do think that it's important for everyone to kind of also at least have a friend who's maybe from your the culture that from your as a so to have a friend or meet someone that can also understand where you're coming from, like your childhood, some of those little things. So we need to vent, right? And I say that for people who move to the US, right? I mean, we could be crazy. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure for someone coming from France or from Spain and they go to the US, they're like, these Americans, what the heck? Right? You need to have those moments where you can go to dinner and just really be yourself and express yourself in the culture that you're originally from, right? And then you can have a little bit of a reset, right? And then you're good to go after that. I
Yeah,
think that's important.
do you find that I 100% agree. You speak Spanish at a really high level. You studied Spanish and you work a lot in Spanish like I for instance, I didn't study Spanish. I just kind of like picking it up here. So
Mhm.
my Spanish level is at a point where like it's still like I'm trying to think how to not say it in Spanish. Like it me cuesta. Like it challenges me to really truly be myself. And I've heard people say before, like speaking in another language, like you kind of lose a bit of yourself. Um,
Mm.
and I don't know if because you just, I mean, you find yourself doing like different mannerisms. You speak in a different tone. Like things are inflected differently, and it is really weird. You do sort of lose a little bit of your personality when you're trying to speak in another language. And I don't know if that's changed for you since you're more on like the fluent level. Do you think like do you think that has affected you at all in Panama?
I wouldn't say too much, only from the perspective of a lot of my friends, here and they're bilingual, right? So even though maybe there's times where I'm hanging out with the group and I am the only, native English speaker. So all the conversation there is in Spanish, right? And so I'll say things in Spanish. That's just how we're exchanging information. But sometimes I think expressing emotions is very difficult, and sometimes you have to switch to English for that. I'm like, I don't know how to say this, but I think that that's a fair point. I think across the board, I think I've seen it more so from another perspective when I'm interviewing people, because I want people to do their best when I'm interviewing them for a job in the company, and I know that for me, if I were interviewing in Spanish, you're already nervous, right? It's something that you want. Like that, it's that much more difficult to express, your personal side, right? Your hobbies, right? Really dig into the details and show the body language. And I think that then sometimes you lose the body language
Mhm.
because you're so tense and nervous that it can cause a different impression. So what I've actually done a lot is I've told people, here when I sit them down, I say, hey, look, we'll do this in English, but if there's something you can't communicate, switch to Spanish for a bit, right, and then go back to English. I'll have a native Spanish speaker there. If there's someone too who I'm still trying to figure out a bit, I'll just have them do a separate meeting interview with someone else from my team,
Mm.
fully in Spanish, right, to try to verify a couple of things, right. With that way, they feel more comfortable and really can be themselves. I mean, I don't think interviews should be done in a way of just to intimidate people. No, you want them to do your best. You're trying to find someone good, right? I know there's some jerks out there who just feel like they're interviewing people and I'm the boss. Like, no, that's not my style.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to find someone good, and I want them to feel comfortable to do their best and really know who they are. But it's a true problem. You're right.
Yeah. I think actually it's an interesting kind of segue because something I'm very curious about. We've like in our other conversations that aren't normally recorded. We've talked about this a little bit, but like one of the things that I think is so cool about your experience is that like a lot of people that I talk to on this show and people that I've met traveling and stuff, like they're more their lifestyle would be considered like a little bit like alternative in some way. Like they're digital
Mhm.
nomady or they married a foreigner and moved abroad or something like that. But like, they've started an online business or they're like a social media influencer or something like this.
Mhm.
Like some of these like
Mhm.
prototypical like, full-time travelers or something like that. But like you always sought out like from the very beginning, and this is what I want you to talk about a little bit, I think, is like you always sort of sought out like an international experience. It like me and like many of the people that listen to this show, that called to you from a early stage. You went into
Yeah.
your first job was like out of college was like it's going to put you in a position to live in different places around the world.
Do you mean in a way of how do I say it? Maybe we both have had a lot of
No, I've had half of a beer. It's not the
beer.
beer. My stamina hasn't been crushed that bad. But so your path to where you've arrived to has been more so like through like the corporate world. Like you're now in
Mhm.
a position of you're getting promoted to a position of very high leadership within the largest shipping company in the world, and you
Mhm.
are already in a position of management and leadership and so like you've moved your way up through this company while also living this very cool life, living in different countries, learning other languages. And
Mhm.
I wonder like if you ever reflect on that. Like do you ever think like, man, this is kind of cool. Like I set out to do this. I wanted to travel and see the world, and I have a successful career. I have a team that works for me. I'm getting promoted. I'm getting moved around the world.
Mhm.
Like you kind of did it. You set out to do all this and you've done it. And it's really cool. And I think it's really interesting because it shows people like you don't necessarily have to be like a programmer or engineer working for like a fully remote tech company to live
Yeah.
this cool life, that if your desire is to live in other countries and stuff. So I don't know, do you ever reflect on this?
No, no, for sure. No, I do feel very lucky from that, and honestly, more so from the perspective that I feel like I feel like that I discovered it by accident. I never, and most people never think about shipping. I never thought about how stuff really got. Of course, you might see made in China, made here, made whatever on the bottom of something, but I never thought about that in my whole life until I was in college. And I was in a class called International Business Transactions, and I had this professor who was super awesome. He was an attorney. He was very intimidating. I was scared of him, honestly.
What was
But
his name?
Dunstan,
Dunstan, right?
I think it was no, no,
Or
Dunstan, something
Duncan?
Dunstan.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I can't
We're
remember.
thinking about the same guy. I
Yeah,
was
he
a
had a bow
year
tie.
behind. Yeah, yeah. He
He wore a
always
bow
rocked a bow
tie,
tie. Yeah.
and he had his hair like on point. And he walked into that classroom and he demanded, attention. Right? He was on it, and so I would be just shaking, like, "Please don't call me! Please don't call me! Please don't call me!" And he would call me. So just
You
learning
could see
about
the
from
fear in your
I could
eyes.
see it. I think that's what he knew. He just knew. But from that, learning about shipping and how it works and bills of lading and exchanging goods from one country to another, I was like, wait a second, wait, hold on a second. This is like a whole this is a whole career potential path. So from there, I started looking into shipping, and then and I realized that my discovery is that there's offices that most of these companies have offices all around the world, right? And then I started connecting different dots, and of course, I was very fortunate enough to join into one of the management training program that they had called the MISE program back at the time. So that way, it was part of doing different rotations. Going to Copenhagen, they really worked with us and to learn how to interact with different cultures from a business perspective. And even more cool that they we had personality tests, and so you actually didn't even realize that you were in a 2 week workshop with people who had a similar personality as you, right?
Mm,
And so my roommate, for example, the very first workshop I had in Copenhagen was from Pakistan, but
wow.
we were so completely different, right, countries, and we were he it's actually funny. I brought him, as a gift. You're supposed to kind of bring a gift, to your roommate, and I brought him a bottle of whiskey. And I was like, "Hey, this is something from my country, exciting, right?" And he's like, "I don't drink," and he had brought me, something, that was a typical type of outfit that they wear in Pakistan. So then I kind of felt like
Interesting.
a jerk, but but he wasn't offended at all. He was like, "No, it's cool. You can have that. Don't worry. I just don't drink." But from there on, right, I think that I realized that how you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to be working from from just, or I don't know, you don't have to be, you said maybe a digital nomad, just to live abroad, right?
Yeah.
Or work for a big, big, huge, tech company and be a programmer and be able to move around the world. There are companies out there that do it, and the logistics industry, it's you have to goods have to move from one place to another. This is why people in the U.S. you have strawberries maybe year round, right, or
Yeah.
blueberries year round. So and they need expertise in different countries, different times. But that's kind of the I have foresight, like you said, to I appreciate this situation because it's not just an how do I say this? My day to day life is very kind of how it would be almost in the U.S. in a way, from a perspective of I'm working. The office is different, and I have people in the office, different cultures, but it feels like my life is very normal.
Yeah.
Although when I take a moment and sit back, I'm like, it actually is not that normal, but it does give
No.
me this feeling of normalcy. Still working in more of a corporate position that's very open minded with different individuals from different countries.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a lot of ways a dream come true for someone who does really enjoy interacting with people from other cultures. I mean, like that's super cool to be paired up with a Pakistani and have that experience of realizing like you were young at that time, like you hadn't seen as much of the world as you have now, and what an immediate learning experience right away. Like, hey,
Mhm.
we're exchanging gifts. Oh, my gift means nothing to you because you don't drink there. Right. Lesson learned. And like you have that opportunity on a daily, hourly basis, actually, because I mean,
Yes.
you're like what's the makeup of your just very, very roughly speaking, like of your office or your team? Like is it's
Oh
very
wow.
multinational, right?
Well, I mean, I know the team that I'm going to in the Netherlands. I mean, it's but, my boss there. I mean, he's hired. I think there's 24 countries represented under the. I think his umbrella basically has around 100 people under it. I think it's 24 countries represented. I think for my team, when I look at it, I want to say there's at least 5 or 6 countries represented out of
Wow.
my reports there. Here in Panama, I mean, you have, I mean, of course, some people from the U.S. You have people from all over Latin America. You have from Denmark, Netherlands, Venezuela, Colombia, Argentina. No one from Ocean. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. We have an Australian. We do have an Australian for sure.
You were not forgotten,
Asia.
Australian.
It's yeah. Sorry, Australia. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I know you guys are far down there, so I had to get to that
Yeah.
country in my in my
Yeah,
in my
as you're
mind, looking at
scanning
the
the
map,
globe,
right?
you're like, "Oh yeah, oh,
Exactly.
yep, there is somebody."
Exactly, exactly. We have a lot of guys from India, right? Who relocated here. It's such a diverse, office, and the main aspect, of course, is that the work language is in English. So most meetings are going to be conducted in English. You do have those moments sometimes where you join a meeting, and for me, I don't mind having a meeting in Spanish, but if there's numbers being discussed, I prefer English just because
Yeah.
so I don't miss a zero in the in the discussion, and I make a decision on something that I shouldn't, maybe I
Yeah.
should go in this direction. Um, but sometimes you do have the awkwardness sometimes where you join a meeting and there's 20 people, or maybe you join 1 minute late and it's already going in Spanish, and then someone's like, "Wait, oh wait, hold on, Aaron's here. Oh, Aaron, do you want it to switch to English?" And you kind of feel everyone like, oh, of course, let's all change for him. And I'm like,
Meanwhile, you speak Spanish, so it's like even that much like, "Oh, man, yeah, I'm gonna be a real stickler and say, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. I speak the language, but I prefer my language. So, yeah, let's
Exactly.
change."
It's such a terrible moment. They're like this couldn't go. So no, that does make it pretty funny every now and then. But
What's,
yeah.
what's been the high and the low of Panama for you? For someone maybe maybe somebody's listening and considering moving to Panama for one reason or another, or looking for their next home or something. And,
Mm.
what's a high and low that maybe someone should know if they're considering a move there?
Hmm. Okay, I think for one of the highs in Panama is, well, looking at more so Panama City, right? Everyone thinks that no one really knows a lot. I feel like outside of Panama about Panama City and how massive it is. My little brother came to visit and he said this is like Dubai because there are just skyscrapers everywhere. I think that I'm not sure if this is, a clear fact, but I believe it is that in all of the Americas of North and South America, that I believe after New York has the most skyscrapers, I think it's Chicago, and then I believe it's Panama,
Wow.
having the third amount, right? So you land and you see this, it's also right on the ocean, and you see this massive sprawling skyline. And so visually, it's extremely impressive, right? To see that every day, and I sit there when I'm driving. It's a blessing that I'm able to drive over the ocean on the highway every day and
Yeah.
still be looking at massive skyscrapers. It fills me off. I will say that you can get a lot of different benefits here because there's the cost of living can be a little bit cheaper. And when I say that, I I wouldn't say more so from the cost of an apartment rental and those parts because it definitely has skyrocketed over the past 8 years. But in terms of getting things done, like you said, I mean, you can have a maid, right? You can have someone a nanny to help take care of your children, right? For quite cheap,
Mhm.
where they can live with you as well. Just the this there's small things like the car wash is significantly cheap, right?
Yeah.
The movies is very cheap, and food can be relatively cheap. So from that perspective, I think it's quite nice. And then you can typically the flights to the U.S. or even the flights to Europe have been very cheap. You can hop around very easily
Yeah, I
from
would like to say for the audience to know this because you're the only. this is this is why I love you, Bobo. Like you're the only person I know that's ever come to visit me in Europe for a weekend.
the flight
And
was
you
cheap. I have to
you
see
did
you.
that. You did that. You were like, "Hey, dude, it's Wednesday. What are you doing this weekend? Thinking about coming to Valencia." I'm like, "Are you in Paris? I know you like No, I'm in Panama, but there's a good ticket. I think I'll come to Valencia this weekend." I'm like, "This is only Aaron Bobo would do that." And yes, please. But yeah, so that's a cool thing to know. I mean, like you actually can. I mean, it's not that most people aren't going to hop weekend trips to Europe, but most people aren't Aaron Bobo either. So
No. You're right. You're right from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, like, you're close to the Caribbean. I mean, there are amazing islands right off of Panama too. So that I'd say that's definitely the high to be able to travel and how close you are to different places. The lows, I mean, I think it depends on where you come from. For me, it's just it was difficult because I'm a very my mind, me, I'm not a very patient person. My mind goes very fast, and the sense of urgency isn't typically here, when it comes to getting things done. So that's a pro and a con because it has had to teach me to just slow down and relax. Like what we talked about earlier,
yeah,
when I go to the Netherlands, I'm more already like, okay, this might take 5 days to get done. Maybe it would take 30 minutes in the US, but this might take 5 days. And I'm prepared for it mentally. So I
yeah.
think Panama has helped me from that perspective. But on the same front, they've also, yeah, I've told myself, hey, slow down a bit, right? Why the rush, right? You're getting yourself been out of shape and stressed out for no reason. That being said, yeah, you don't have, in like the Google, a lot of things aren't updated, like let's say hours for a restaurant. They're not always maintained on Google
Right,
Maps, and stuff. So you're like, oh, this is open. You get there, and they're like, yo, that's been closed for a year. So I've had
man.
a couple of times.
This extends to Spain, by the way, as you
Yeah.
know. I mean, we just had a situation the other day where, like, Allison, my wife, she really wanted a something from a bakery, and we were not in Valencia. We were not like near our home, and so I just quickly Googled it, found out, oh, there's a bakery like 5 blocks to the right. Go to the corner and walk 5 blocks to the right. And she got there and she was like, "There's not even a building there anymore. It's been demolished and it hasn't been there for years." and I was like, "It says it's open right now." They're like, it's like literally like, nope, that has not been anything for years. So yeah, that mentality, it does help you slow down though. I like all like
Mhm.
I totally get what you mean. And I experienced this first when we were living in Ecuador. Like I remember just immediately just being inundated with so many experiences where it was like everybody said something would be done in one day and it was like 1 month, like 1 week, like
Mm,
long periods of time when you're like just and you're just going crazy and they're not even like important things. Like it's like, not even like super urgent things, but you're like, but you said it would be 1 day or you said it would be, 1 week and now it's been 1 month and force you to slow down, which is a net benefit, I think.
for sure. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's so I mean, there's definitely. I mean, it is a very international city too. You have to get used to, I would say, the very, I'd say, inequality that exists here, though. You have to have you have to make sure that you are okay seeing that, right? Because you have these amazing skyscrapers, right? And then you have, to make sure the poor area is also right next to that skyscraper, right, in the city. So
Mm.
sometimes that taps into your emotions, like, whoa, like, there's a big difference in terms of the have and have nots, here for sure.
More so, you think more so than in the US, or like the US is
Oh,
sort of, at least I've found like people from the outside looking in really see that as a stigma of the US. Like you have your haves and your have nots. They see like San Francisco's
hmm,
the using the
main
petri dish thing
example.
again, like it's like the shining example of that, where you just have these billionaires and everybody's making 300 grand a year, but then you have people like the highest homeless population in the
Hmm.
country as well. So like, does it strike you as, and you've lived in the Bay Area
No,
too, so like,
yeah, yeah. No, it's a difference. I think it's more so because the amount. I mean, it's. I think that in the U.S., like what we view as poverty, like that's not like
yeah,
true poverty, right? When you're here and you see, I mean, and this also goes into what happened over the quarantine period, right, during the pandemic. Yes, I mean it's okay for a lot of people were complaining. Because you have to stay inside, et cetera, et cetera. And I was very comfortable, right? A lot of people were comfortable, but when you're driving around the city, you see these areas where it's the a tiny shack, right? Maybe five people will be there, living there. And are they really expected to stay there when we shut down over the weekends from Friday at 5 p.m. until Monday at 5 a.m.? They can't get delivery service there, right? Their fridge isn't going to hold enough for five people for the whole weekend. They need to
right.
go and shop, for that. So those are aspects that people I feel like don't think about. And it's a different level of poverty. It's a whole different level, and it does make it a little bit different from that side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, because I think like that could really affect your experience there. Like if you're
Mhm.
very sensitive to that, or not aware of it going in, and seeing that stark difference every day. It's not like in the US, I don't know, in a lot of countries I feel like there's a lot of separation, like there's like, oh, that side of the city is kind of rough and this
Mhm.
side's kind of safe. So you just don't go there and you don't see that. But like
Mhm.
in a lot of the developing world, and especially I think as you like in certain parts of Latin America that I've been in, it there's these two stark differences living right next to each other. I also remember
Yes.
seeing this in China too. Actually, it felt that way in China. There's very like real poverty right next to like real emergence of
Mhm.
wealth, and so yeah, that definitely can weigh on you. I get what you mean about that.
But I will tell you one thing though, it is a very safe country. It is so safe here. Like
Is
you
it
can,
okay? That's good to know.
and all my friends say that. People from Ecuador, Argentina. You're walking around. You don't have. I don't have any concern that I'm going to get mugged around. Now, could it happen? Okay, yes, fine.
Yeah.
But typically all the buildings have security outside. You have people that are, a lot of people that are actually, being paid to maybe stand on the corner, right, and just observe and make sure nothing happens, right.
Mm.
When I go take my dog out, the guy comes out from security and he just watches, make sure that I'm good. I do it at nighttime, right, when it's really late, just to make sure that I'm good on the corner where I'm going with my dog, right. So, um, safety, I've never had an issue on that. That was a surprising thing for me. Yeah,
Now you live
for
in
sure.
Panama City. Where's been your favorite part of Panama just to like visit? Like if you want a weekend getaway or a week getaway or something, is there
Mm.
an area you would recommend someone go to? Like, dude, you have to see this place.
Ooh, for a full, I wouldn't say a full week, but there's what's called the San Blas Islands. They are islands on the north. Remember, so Panama, people forget, Panama goes west to east, actually. So we're looking south is like the Pacific Ocean, and then north is the Caribbean/Atlantic, right?
Ah, yeah, that's
Um,
true.
Yeah, so it's a very thin country. You can drive from one side to the other in what, 50 minutes, I think, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. It's very
50
crazy.
minutes?
Yep,
Less than an
exactly. Yeah,
hour. Seriously.
yep.
Wow.
Just in one day, easy. But on the north side, yeah, there are this group of I don't have my facts, but there's I want to say hundreds of islands, and they're tiny, but they're owned by a group of indigenous people called I think they're called the Gunayala. I need to confirm that, but it's they kind of have their own government set up. You go, it's these islands in the middle of the ocean. When I say that, some are larger, but then some of them are the size of a probably I'm trying to think of this like how do I need to look at my what can I compare things
Like a
to? Like,
like a football field or like a neighborhood or
like some might be the size of literally half a football field, right?
wow.
Or
Oh, and
a third of a
inhabited?
football
Like
field.
people live there?
Inhabited, yes, yes, and they'll have like little homes there. Or what happens when you go to visit, you bring your tent. So a friend of mine, him, his wife, they're from Venezuela, and they have two daughters, and they go all the time, and they're just super on camping. So I went the first time with them. They had the whole shebang, right? So I was like, how are we gonna make this work? They started pulling out. It was almost like I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter, where Hermione's pulling out like thousands of things from her purse because it's like magical. This is what they were doing, like just tents everywhere, grills, and but we were the middle of the ocean on this tiny island with just palm trees, and I mean, at night we saw shooting stars. I mean, it's crazy how it works, but the water is crystal clear across all these islands. So I would say Side Blast is definitely a must go. It's a journey to get there.
Is
It's
it?
getting windy roads, and it's gonna you might kind of get close to vomiting, so take a journey on the way. Uh, 3.5 hours or 4 to get there, but it's so worth it. It's worth every moment.
Sounds awesome, man. Wow. Yeah, I would love to visit there. Bocas del Toro, is that's another place that's kind of on my radar. Have you spent any time there?
Yeah, I've been there one time. Bocas is nice. It's nice. I don't know if it's like a must see,
Yeah.
location. There's islands all around it. It's a little bit more modernized, right? So
A little more
less,
touristy.
a little more touristy. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's why
Um,
I've heard of it and not the San Blas Islands other than from you.
exactly. Yeah, no, but it's yeah. That's good. Also, I'd say also a place called Boquete in the mountains of Panama. It gets very cool there. There's actually a lot of expats there that live there. They've retired. A lot of coffee plantations. So you're a coffee expert. I mean, I see all your stuff. I told you about that, but I'm like, I don't know how to make coffee like that. I have the most basic coffee. I like coffee, but I just wish I could make this amazing coffee. Geisha coffee, right?
Yeah.
Geisha. That's like this amazingly expensive crazy coffee here, and they grow it there in the mountains of Boquete. So that's also so people love coffee. People go to
Yeah.
Boquete. You'll hear a lot of English everywhere, but the temperature's a lot cooler if you're not a big tropical person. You need a light jacket, but you could do coffee plantation tours, taste it, see the whole process. I think my grandparents there, they absolutely loved it.
Uh,
So definitely put that on the list as well.
it seems like this is something that's always seemed so interesting to me. Like since your time living in Panama, I've always felt like it's so diverse. Like it's a small country geographically. I
Hmm.
mean, you just said you can drive from one side to the other in less than an hour and
Yeah,
be surfing in the Pacific Ocean and scuba diving in the Caribbean in the same day,
exactly.
and then be up in the
Yes.
mountains in coffee land and be in one of the biggest metropolises in the world and like or at least in the Americas. Like there's a lot to do and see there, and you have these quick connections to you're right there centrally located between the US and North America and South America, and like it's
Yeah.
I mean it's pretty sweet. I can like totally see why it can become a place where you're like I dig it here.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
wanting to leave.
And try the juice. I will say, if anything, or like my friends that have left here, a buddy of mine, him and his wife left and moved to Italy. And one thing he told me, he said, "Oh my gosh, I miss Panama does juices well." And it sounds so crazy, but tropical juices like passion fruit. Oh my gosh, like it could kill your diet. Like it just, I've had so many sugar rushes where my friend of mine, how she gets mad at me because I've had a couple of moments where I couldn't stop drinking this juice, and I've like gotten a little physically ill because I'm like, it's just so good. She's like, you have to stop that. So that's definitely they do that well. Fresh fruit amazingly well.
Yeah, man, you've totally sold me on the juice. I've seen some photos of the juice, and I want to make a trip to Panama just to come have some of that juice. Speaking of the beverages, real quick before we sign off, what are you sipping on over there? Do you have some cool like Panamanian beer or?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So the whole craft beer started to take off a couple of years ago here. So yeah, there's this one's called a Fula Blondel. It's from a place called Casa Bruja, which is house in English, brewing, and that's a brewery here in Panama. And the other one is a place called Central Cerveceria. This has a place actually 2 blocks from my house, and it is a Belgian white. So they've actually really taken off. A lot of craft beer places opened up. They've gone to the trend, and um, you can get that here for sure.
Nice. Very cool. I've been on this brewery
Oh,
here
yeah.
called Zeta, or as they say in Valencia, Theta.
Ah, got
Um,
you.
yeah, and they do a great job. They're based here out of Valencia. They have these super cool cans and a lot of variety. So I just tried a West Coast IPA called Magic Hour for our happy hour
Our
edition of the
discussion.
About Abroad. So that went
Okay.
well. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation much more though, and just like
Likewise.
I mean, when we get a chance to catch up, it's not as often as we would have liked in the past, but it's always so fun. Like I could talk about your travels and your experiences in different places for hours and hours. I think it's really awesome what you're
Dude,
getting
same to
ready to
you.
do, and I'm pumped for you. I'm excited for the next chapter, and excited you'll be closer here. Thank you for coming on and sharing some of the advice and tips and just like your general kind of standpoint on how you've created this super cool life for yourself. I think it'll be really great for people that are listening.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a great conversation, buddy. Can't wait till I'm out there as well. We'll have
Yeah.
a blast. New chapter.
It's going to be fun. Hasta luego, amigo. We'll talk soon.
Ciao, ciao. Ciao, senor.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. You can visit aboutabroad.com to get our latest updates and listen to past episodes, or find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, really anywhere you get your podcasts. On that note, if you enjoyed the show, feel free to subscribe and, if inclined, leave a few stars and a review. It's truly, truly appreciated and will help more wanderers just like you find us. Until the next time, adios from España.